You thought military briefings were there. Yeah. And then comes the politics.
Yeah.
Things get stretched out.
Oh, sure.
All right, I'd like to call this meeting to order for the Exec Finance Committee. Call to order at 8:30.
And I'll call the
We only got three out of the 5.
Okay, yep. Okay, yeah, station.
Yeah,
You got quorum.
I got a quorum. All right. We'll do, did you yeah, roll call. I have David Orsch.
Here.
David Larson.
Here.
John Ozen, absent. And Doc Sasha, absent. Oh.
Here comes John.
We'll wait a moment for
You didn't cough.
Miss. No, there's Doc.
Oh, it was Doc's cough.
Mr. Sasha is here. All right, certified of the open minutes law requirements.
Yes.
Okay. Adopting of the agenda.
Motion to adopt.
Motion by Mr. Larson,
Second.
second by Mr. Sasha. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? None. Motion carried. Mr. Schreiner.
roll call on property.
Yep.
I was gonna say you didn't have to do it until number 7 on the agenda.
I guess I'm the only one there, you said. Sure.
I must have an old agenda because I haven't got 5 items on my agenda.
Oh, yeah, that's.
You were supposed to announce yourselves. So we know you're here.
You here? Becker's here. Dan Schreiner's here. That's 4 out of 5, I guess. Are you property too?
Yeah.
Oh, we got a full bill thing.
Man, we're full votes.
All right. That's it for you, Dan?
Yep.
Okay. All right, public comment period for 15 minutes. Members of the public have 15 minutes blocked of the time. Comments on today's agenda items. Oh, there's Mr. Ozen.
What about the minutes?
Oh, sorry, I skipped number 4. We're adopting of the minutes previous for last month. I need a motion.
John stuff.
Motion to adopt.
Motion by Mr. Larson, second by Mr. Orsch. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? None, motion carried. All right, number 5. The public comment period. Members of the public will have 15 minutes blocked on the time to comment on today's agenda. Members of the public must be present at being on the meeting or comment period will be waived. Public comments period may be extended or at a discussion of the chair after the advisement by the Exec Finance Committee. You can call in at 715-538-1770. I'm going to repeat it. The number again is 715-538-1770. All right. Item 6, discussion and actions on the settlement funds. Mr. Niemeyer.
Got a handout so you guys can see as we're going along. Take one, pass it around.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
I'll make sure John gets one.
I made 8 copies. I forgot that the property committee was going to be here as well, so my apologies. You know, let's get more.
No, I don't.
All right, so what this is, just a relatively brief presentation regarding the opioid settlement. I know you've all sat through a previous discussion on this, but there's another topic, I guess, that needs some attention from the Exec Finance Committee as well as the county board eventually. So just going through this, the first page there, this is about the securitization of the amounts of money that we're getting under the current settlement with the, I think it's 5 defendants. Keep in mind, these are just 5 of the multiple defendants, so there are other ones that we may have to address later on. But as you may recall from our previous conversations, the county is getting, I think, roughly $900,000 from the settlement for this portion of it. Also keep in mind, 80% of that is coming to the county, 20% is being set aside for potential for attorney's fees. And that's, and again, these numbers, we'll go through that in more detail here. We may get some of that 20%. The deadline for submitting attorney fees was last Tuesday, I believe it was. And so once they go through all that and figure out how much is going to get paid, we'll know if we're going to get any of that 20%. So this discussion is talking about whether or not the county wants to be involved in the securitization of any of the proceeds that we're getting from the settlement. This first page is just a little bit of a very brief background. From the local government perspective, it does give us, takes away a lot of the risk involved in the payments, gives us cash up front. The investors, obviously, they get a little bit of extra money based on the fact that they would be upfronting that money. So again, that's just kind of a general summary of that. So, but the real numbers are starting on page 2. So if you recall, there are 2 settlements. One we call the J&J or the Janssen settlement, that's Johnson & Johnson, and then there's one we call the distributor settlement. So the J&J settlement payments, that one is paid over a relatively short period of time, and so this one is not going to be included in the securitization if the county decides to go that route. And the reason being is you can look at the bottom graph there, the vast majority of the payments are made over the next 4 years, so it doesn't make sense to give up money in order to get, when you're getting most of it up front anyhow. So those payments would go through 2031, and again, I have more specific numbers for Trempealeau County when we get further on in these diagrams here. So that's the Johnson & Johnson settlement payment plan, and again, that one we would not be looking at any securitization. The next one, the distributor settlement, that is the one that we would be discussing the most about today. Again, as you indicate or see there, that just shows what the overall payments are. And again, we'll go in more detail for Trempealeau County specifically. But as you can see, those payments are spread out fairly evenly through 2038. And so that's the payment schedule there. Again, too, that's assuming everybody makes their payments as they're supposed to. Nobody goes bankrupt or something else happens along the way too. So that's just a little bit of the background. So then the next page is really what does this all mean for Trempealeau County if the county decides. So securitization is not required. It is an option for the county to do. If the county does not do securitization, then these next 2 pages are what Trempealeau County can expect for payments. So on this page, there's 2 graphs. There's an example 1 and an example 2. So under example 1, that is the payout, the payments that are to be made without any securitization, and the payments that will be made over the term of the settlement. So that blue column or blue box column, that's the Janssen or the J&J settlement. Again, those payments are going to be that way. There isn't an option to securitize that one. So those payments will be made according to that schedule. So in the far left-hand column, those are each year, taking into consideration 1 and 2 is actually both 2022. So those payments will come in this year alone, and then the rest will be on an annual basis. The green column there, the distributor, that is the schedule of payments under that settlement. And so those are the payments that will come in on an annual basis. Again, keeping in mind that for some reason in 2022, we're getting 2 payments from each settlement. Okay. So those are the amounts, and I have a comparison on the next page, which we'll go through in a moment. So example 2, that takes into account the securitization of the distributor. So as you see, the Janssen scheduled payments are exactly the same. That won't change. If you securitize the distributor settlement option, you still get the 2 payments for 2022. Those are going to happen regardless. No sense in securitizing those. But then that just basically $290,000, that's the amount. These are estimates, just keep in mind, because there's a number of factors that go into this. Trempealeau County would, in theory, or estimated to receive $290,000 yet this year. And then the remaining portion is that last column. There is some that would still be paid over the term of the settlement terms. And that's largely due to the investors wanting some kind of security to make sure that in case somebody defaults on their payments, that there is a little bit of money that they're not fronting 100% of it. And so again, that's, if securitization happens, that's what the payment schedule would look like. So that last page I put on there, just kind of a simple comparison of everything. So if payments went as scheduled with no securitization, the Janssen settlement, and again, these are estimates, would pay out $134,369 over the course of the payment period. The distributor payments would be $584,599 over the term of the settlement terms. So that's just if it went as is. Now, if we partially securitize things, then that's what the next breakdown is. That 80% I put on there, that's just a reminder that it's 80%, not the full 100%. So the distributor settlement would be paid in 2022. We would get an estimated $341,122, with the remaining $88,000 plus being paid through 2038. So that would leave that total of $430,019 if securitization was taken. So then those highlighted ones are just the comparison of the settlement payments as ordered or agreed versus securitization. So that is the difference between the two if the county decided to go that route. Okay. The reason I'm bringing this up to the Exec Finance Committee at this point in time is the powers that be of the settlement need to know not whether you want to do it, but if there is interest in doing this, then they would include. And the reason being is that the number of people who will participate in securitization will impact the numbers. And so they just want to know, without a commitment, if there's interest, then they will initially include Trempealeau County in that, factoring what the actual numbers will be. Once we get that information, then the county board will decide whether or not to commit to the securitization or not. Okay? So I guess today I'm just looking from this committee to decide whether or not there's any interest. If there isn't, I would let them know that. If there is, I'll let them know that. But it is not a commitment to proceed with the securitization. Questions?
Rick, does this money have to be designated for any specific thing, right?
Yes,
Or-
correct. Yep, there's,
or Does the jail count?
there are items in the jail that it can be used for. I have a 15-page document that lists all the approved uses of it. I can certainly get that for everybody. There's a number of things, but it has to be opioid related. So, but there can be, for example, the jail, they can provide services to inmates if there's an opioid addiction and an inmate type of thing, among other things. There's a lot of training that can be done too.
Any
Yeah.
possible division of that, like the first 3 years, no, and after that, yes, anything like that?
I believe it's basically all or nothing, essentially, correct, yes. Yep.
Will a higher number of entities interested in securitization have a negative effect on the money paid out?
No, this is, these numbers are estimated based on everybody participating,
Okay.
so, yeah.
So they're gonna get a lower, try to secure a lower interest rate with the
Correct.
higher funds being able to be secured.
Correct, yes. And I think one of them lists what they're expecting it with full participation, which is, I think, the 0.32, yeah, 0.32%. Other questions?
That 718,968, is that including the J&J?
That is, yes.
Okay, so if you take out that, the difference is, what's the percent difference then between what we would get on the securitized?
I'd have to figure out the percentage quick. And I should also say that the amount received if securitization is included, that also is including the J&J one as well, so those are both grand totals. And so I can figure out what the percentage,
Right.
right? So we got,
But I'm trying to, okay, what's our percentage we're paying
Mhm.
to get that lump sum? It's a significant percentage, so something for us to consider over time.
0.74%.
We can get a lot more money over time, but, you know, chances to get a
0.74%?
lump sum is something
If
that
I
you
mathed it
consider.
correctly.
0.7?
Yeah.
Also,
For-
it would make
I guess
sense
we're,
to
I
keep
think we're
in
getting
mind that
73% of what our total amount is, what I.
the risk of the
I think.
payments being
I'm not a good math
continued
person, so
over
my
that
calculator says
full
that, so.
time.
I'm gonna trust God.
I would
You're right,
imagine that
exactly. Can trust
longer
that.
the time period, the higher the risk of still receiving our payments.
Okay, the attorney fees
On an
are
annual
taken
basis.
out.
So these numbers are, yes, the attorney's fees are not factored into here, correct? Yep. And the 20%, it can't go over the 20%, it might be less than that, so. What happened in the global settlement is they actually set aside separate money, and so once all that money is used up, if our attorneys haven't been paid based on our fee agreement, then they'll dip into that 20%, so.
I'm sorry, the
Yep.
percentage again was what?
It said 0.7, so I'm guessing 73% of what we would, again, I'm just going off my calculator here. 0.73, 0.74.
26 something percent.
Correct.
It's a big
Yeah.
percentage.
Mhm. Yeah, essentially, we're getting 74% of what.
So what would the committee like to do?
I haven't yet. This was presented last week, so I haven't heard from other counties as to what they're doing. I suspect they're doing the same and going to committees to get some approval of some kind. July 22nd. And again, it's not a commitment, it's just a whether or not initial interest. Because then what they'll do is, once they have the initial interest from the number, they'll calculate more concrete numbers and get them back to us, and then that's when I'll go to the full board for actual approval.
So that percentage could go down if we have a huge, you know,
Correct. Mhm.
group of counties that want to do the same.
Correct. Mhm.
I think it makes sense to make us have the option to go either way.
Mhm. Yeah. Because you're not going to lose anything by just having interest, by saying that you're interested in it,
Right.
because you're not going to commit to doing it until
Right.
later on, so. Mhm.
That doesn't change what you have to do
Mm-mm, Nope,
for now.
nope. I just need to let them know, yes or no, if there's interest.
Is this a consensus or a vote?
I would say, I would prefer a formal motion and then see if the motion passes.
I would make the motion to look further into this.
Got a motion on the table by Mr. Larson
I'll second.
to look into this further for Mr. Niedermeyer.
I'll
Have a second by Mr. Orsh. And-
By looking into it further, you mean to go for it, or?
To look into it further,
Sure.
as I
Yeah.
understood
Yep.
the
So what I-
presentation, that we aren't committed to anything, but we're saying we're interested in checking it out to see where it goes.
Correct, yep, so I would let them know that we're interested, which means that they would include us in their projected numbers based on the number of counties or municipalities involved. Then they would give us, based on the people who are interested, the numbers back, and then that's when the board would have to ultimately decide. Because I believe the board should make the ultimate decision to accept or not accept securitization. And so once we get those numbers back, then we can say to the board, this is what you're going to get, do you want to do it or not? So,
Makes
We have
sense.
another committee here that a good portion of the board, is that their feeling too?
No harm in going forward with it and see where
Do-
it lands.
Do we want to do a roll vote on this? Just for everybody, with most of the board
Keep in
here?
mind, it's only the exec committee that's voting on it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then
I
I
was
won't
just
do a roll
taking
vote,
advice
but
from the other committee.
we'll do it just a full.
Yes, I guess we can roll call you.
Well,
Okay, there's no harm in moving forward. I don't think we need a voice vote, just yea or nay or.
yeah, that's what I was gonna do, just a voice, just a voice. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? None. Motion carried.
great, I'll let them know, and then I'll be back probably next month with some more information.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right. Item number 7, joint meeting with the property committee. Mr. Schreiner?
Well, Kurt Berner is here, and this has been a point of discussion. Our new construction project had been operating over budget, and the question of how to pay for that overrun has been in the front of a lot of people's brains here. The way I look at it is, we're fortunate enough to have a pot of ARPA money that we have until sometime in 2024 to spend. From the start of the ARPA funds.
26 to spend,
26?
but 24 to designate.
Oh, okay. Even better. Some of the requirements on those ARPA funds have been relaxed somewhat since the beginning of COVID and the decision to distribute money to government. So it's my understanding that we can put that money in the general fund.
Not really in the general fund, but you could designate it to a specific project.
And it would be acceptable to designate it to that overrun if we do our homework.
That money is separated, so it's not part of our general fund.
Yep, okay.
Restricted funds.
I guess the point I'm trying to make is that money is more than likely going to be available to cover our overruns.
Well, according to what we've been told, Paul, anything under the $10 million mark, there is more flexibility.
Yeah, because then it's considered lost revenue.
All right. So, this has been occurring at the same time that we have been accepting requests from departments and how they would like to see a portion of that money or all of that money spent. My point is, it might not be the best idea for us to distribute that money or commit it to various departments when that project's not done and we do not know what the overrun is going to be when it gets done. I would like to see the county take some action that basically says, we're going to wait until that project's done and we know what our overrun is before we commit any of this ARPA funds that hasn't already been committed to anything. Because that, to me, makes the most sense. I mean, one of the options, if we didn't have ARPA funds available, one of the options available to us to cover those overruns would be bonding. And I think I couldn't vote for that. You know, we have asked the taxpayers in this county to commit an awful lot of money in the future. When we were told that the money for this project would not have a noticeable impact on taxes, everybody kind of relaxed, but even I myself didn't do the projection over time. I think that statement depends on everything remaining constant as it is and not taking into account any new borrowing. So as an option, I don't view that rebonding as a viable option. I'm not concerned about my political career here. If I get defeated, I get defeated. I'll go home. But it's not fair to the taxpayer. For me, even to suggest it, I think would be wrong. So, with that, if Kurt could bring us up to date here and speak about how this may or may not go in the future. And first of all, are we on schedule and are we projected to have completion as we've been told?
Correct. The project is currently on schedule. To kind of bring the new members up to speed on history of the project, we spent quite a bit of time with the property committee committee a couple weeks ago. We actually went into closed session to go over floor plans of the jail for security purposes. And then out of closed session, we looked at floor plans for the renovation of the existing building. And I think it was helpful, and it kind of led us to a discussion that maybe other committees should have that same presentation or full board, because some of you new members don't know any of the information about the project, to bring you up to speed on what's the design about and where we stand. So I'm going to keep it brief. If we want to do a full presentation of that at a board meeting or at other committee meetings, I'm willing to do that. But in summary, the original Justice Center project was scheduled for a $40 million budget. We had $3.5 million allocated for renovation of the existing courthouse for departments to relocate within the space that was going to be vacated for the departments that move into the Justice Center. Project bid out, came in over $44 million in its entirety, which consumed the funding for the renovation. It also consumed the money for our furniture, our FF&E fixtures, furnishings, and equipment. So it's furniture and some equipment for the project, and also a contingency. In April, when all of you were brought onto the board, if you'll recall, there was a resolution about allocating funding for contingency and FF&E. And at the time, I had told Dan to table that resolution because we had a majority of the board that had no clue what that was even about, and thought that we should bring all of you up to speed on as to where we're at. So the contingency that was earmarked was $1.5 million. The FF&E budget was $800 and some thousand, so it ended up being between $2.3 and $2.4 million that the resolution that was written had asked for ARPA funds to be allocated to that. Now, the contingency money doesn't mean that it's going to be consumed. It's there to be used for things that come up over the course of the project. The FF&E budget would be used. It's for things that need to be allocated to the project that the funding wasn't there for. The conversation at the property meeting last month, or a couple weeks ago, was, okay, so where are we with this existing courthouse, and what is committed to renovation? So the floor plan that I shared with the committee, again, was only a preliminary floor plan, and we had put a budget to that. Question at the property committee is, what would that cost today? And we haven't priced that with the increases in costs. And what I had suggested to the group was, if there is interest in completing that renovation work in the courthouse, because right now we've paused that because there is no money to do it. My suggestion would be to go back to all of the departments that are planning to move into that space, firm up a floor plan, and have us put a budget. You're not committing to the full design, but you are going to commit to doing a floor plan that we can then have departments sign off on and say, this works for me, and then we can put a budget to get to that together. That would then get to Dan's point of, how much funding do we need to be able to complete the original intended project, right? Because right now we're talking about getting the Justice Center done, and only the Justice Center. We're not talking about the renovation of the courthouse. So we plan, our scheduled plan is to turn over the Justice Center next fall, 2023, okay? If you decided to do the renovation portion, we had earmarked about 9 to 10 months of construction for that work to take place. Now, depending on whether we move departments around and where we move them, and if we phase it, if we have more phases, the duration extends because it takes longer to get in and piecemeal. But we had originally planned for 9 to 10 months, which all of that work could be completed before the 2024 deadline that Paul had talked about of allocation of funds. Then you have another 2 years to spend it. So to Dan's point, you could have all of those numbers completed and then have an understanding of what's left of that ARPA funding for other sources. And that's a more detailed way to kind of explain what we talked about at property. Now, the reason we came here today was we have a resolution that's already out there on the table. That do we reword that and take it to the board? Because we do have some costs that have come in. Construction bulletins, that there's some design elements that changed, some materials that have changed that do need to be approved, but property doesn't have the authority to approve them because there's no money to approve. What had happened is property was authorized to deal with all of those change orders in the budget of that project as long as it stayed within the budget. Those change orders that are coming, or those costs that are coming, exceed that budget. So property is at a point that says we need to approve these, but we have no funding to approve it. So it would be an allocation of some sort to at least get that done. So I don't know if that helps define where we're at. It's probably a lot thrown at some of you new members, and if there is some, if it's one-on-one, if you guys want me to walk through one-on-one, or if you think I should do it in closed session with the full board this coming month so that they can get a feel for it. My goal is to inform everybody at a level that they feel as though they know what those details are, and they're not making decisions on things that they don't know about, but there is also some other things that we need action on to keep things progressing on the project. So
And I have a question. I don't want to interrupt your flow, but I looked at some of the department head requests that have come in so far. And the question is the property committee alone going to be responsible for giving a yay or nay on some of these requests? Because in my singular opinion, more than a couple of those requests are not based in reality. That there's a request for more space than at least I think is necessary. So does the property committee get to go? No, you don't get that. Or, work with somebody who knows something about square footage, but I think, historically, we've been shown that often department head requests are, again, not based in reality.
Can I just give you some direction on that? So it's not uncommon that when we go through a design that not all departments are absolutely pleased with the design and the adjacencies that's there, right? So
Yeah.
what it comes down to is prioritization of elements that surround those decisions, right? And I can tell you that I feel we had many department heads involved in that first iteration. Not that it's perfect, right? But we solved or we addressed many concerns with the departments. Now, I have heard some feedback since news got out, hey, I delivered a floor plan to property. We're building this. No, we're not. Let's just make that clear. I'm glad it's on the TV. We're not building that. This is preliminary, right? And if we decide to move forward with that, there will be changes to that floor plan. But I do think that it has to be a committee or the full board. I typically deal with it at the committee that's assigned to that we bring a list of items that departments are not pleased with, and then you prioritize whether they can be addressed or should be addressed, and that does fall on the committee's shoulders to do so. Now, I think we mitigated a majority of them. They're not all solved, obviously, and there probably will be issues that come up that people aren't overly thrilled with, but it would be a workable solution. So, to the point, Dan, that we may look at that from a budget perspective because we have quite a bit of changes that we made, and budget may drive that we can't do as many renovations as we talked about with taking out some walls. We may have to live within the space that we have, but still give the departments the overall programming or the space that they need. It just may be different in the number of alterations because budget may dictate that. And that's where you have to have that data to be able to make those informed decisions about if we do this, what does it cost?
Well, and historically, in this facility, for decades, we've lived under the thumb of the budget.
Right.
And we've made a little adjustment here and a little adjustment there and changed that office this year and 2 years later change another. So that's basically what a lot of us are familiar with.
Right.
And when we look at these proposed changes, it's like, oh my goodness, especially when we're under the situation where we don't have enough money to do that.
Mhm. Right.
So I guess my question was, is the property committee, working with Samuel's group, going to make those decisions after we get some adjusted requests from department heads?
So here's the process that I would suggest, is that we would have Venture, the architect, and our group go back and work with the design process with all the department heads. All of you are invited to attend those. I mean, as all board members can sit in on them. If we get too many, we got to deal with the public meeting. But I've seen it then that where we bring that floor plan back and then we have an approval of the floor plan, and at that point, we could have all the department heads there to talk about the concept behind the design, to talk about things that they may want to adjust, and have it at that committee level so that you are getting that input from department heads as well as the design team. So,
Well, it's my understanding that Wednesday, there is a department head meeting scheduled, 10 o'clock Wednesday.
Next week.
Oh. The Wednesday after the county board meeting?
Yeah.
Okay. But I've been invited to attend, and my assumption is it's because I'm the chair of property. Also heard little whisperings that I better bring my big boy pants because I'm going to get an earful. And I would like to have an answer to some degree. My thinking now is, and I hate to get ahead of myself, but tell the people and the department heads, you're going to have to be patient. We don't know what kind of restrictions we're going to be faced with until we know how short we are. And we're not going to know that for a while.
Dan, just a response, I'm chair of the Human Service Committee, and on the agenda later today, we're going to do a walk through what they're talking about. I think it behooves every chair of every committee to make sure that the departments they're working with understand their limitations, and that we have to be dealing with limitations, that we're not necessarily going to get everything we want. And I think that's up to this board as a whole to explain to not just you, Dan, but this board as a whole to explain to these different departments that we are looking out after their interests, but we do have limitations, and that we have to work within those guidelines or the limitations of funding.
And I agree with you, but our responsibility lies with the taxpayer, and that's everybody that holds an elected seat here.
Absolutely,
Should
that's
keep
what I'm
that-
saying.
Yeah, should keep that foremost in our minds.
That's what I'm saying, but I think we need to make sure that they understand that we have to work within our limitations,
Yeah.
and we'll do the best we can with what we have, obviously.
Well, I got something to ask Mr. Kurt here. What is the projected over budget are we going? Like, how far out are we now?
So
Are we,
So right now, what we're short on the Justice Center is the contingency and the furniture, right? So that furniture number of, let's just say it's $850,000, that's a definite over right now.
Okay.
The contingency we've earmarked at 1.5 million, that I don't anticipate spending all of that, but we're gonna spend some of that.
Yeah.
Right? So if you combine those two together, it's 2.3.
Yep.
That I don't think we're gonna spend all of it, right?
So we're only 2.3 over right now.
Correct.
Okay, because that's what we're trying to figure out. Like, for me, for all the department heads to find out.
But that's only for Justice Center.
It's for just, okay.
Correct.
But that's still, with your guys' conversation is, we need to know, for the department heads to understand that we are over budget by $2.3 million at this point. They need to know that they're not gonna get everything.
It's, so what's the number on the remodel of the current building?
The original budget was 3.5 million.
So
Now, we
3.5.
have not updated that with today's pricing. That was,
But
So
that
we're
was
looking at
before.
5.8 million without old pricing, or with old pricing.
With old
New
pricing.
Who knows? It could be 7 or 8 million.
correct.
We discussed that at property, and I think we were thinking it could be as much as double if we're gonna do everything. Is that correct?
And again, it really goes down to scope of what you do with the renovation, right? It really does. Because we didn't gut everything, but we also didn't leave it as is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was kind of a piecemeal of what we could what we could take. So could we come in and update finishes and make it look new, refresh it? We could, but it wouldn't serve the purpose of your departments. You would be doing a disservice to do that. But there's elements in there where you can revisit and say, what's the cost-effective way to accomplish the needs of the departments? So,
My question was, I'm glad we had this meeting, is to ask the exec finance, what was the thinking originally when you budgeted this? And both case scenarios you guys should have thought of. Worst case scenario, if we go 5 million over, or if we come 2 million under. What were you thinking, where were you gonna come, if you went over, what was the idea and the thinking of where you're gonna get that money from? I mean, take ARPA out of the situation. You still gotta think that in the back of your head, anytime you do a building project, or any project. And I still argue with Kurt about, it's contingency is 10% most of the time that all the projects I've ever been on. And which kind of hurt us to start with because it was so low. But what was the thinking of exec finance of where we were gonna get, where were you guys gonna get the money to bail out these over expenditures? Did you guys have any conversations on that, or?
I guess I just want to comment what I told you at property is that I was the one standing before them telling them that we have a budget that I'm comfortable with, right? And so with contingencies there, and
You just don't lay down and die and say, okay, yeah, you're right. No, you still say,
no,
hey.
no, but I want you to understand, and I want everybody that's in the county to understand, is that we have seen significant increases in price that we would not have been able to project.
I'm not arguing that, Kurt, at all. I'm just asking, what was their thinking of where they were gonna come up with the money if they needed it? So we have some direction of what was their thinking? You know, were they always planning on using all the ARPA money? Were they gonna go back and borrow some? Is that, or did we have a nest egg? Did you guys have a nest egg? Because I'm new here, so I don't know exactly, financially, exactly where the county's sitting. So you guys must have had those discussions in the course of the whole project. Did anything ever come up, or any game plan come up if we did have this huge run over? I'm trying to get an idea of where you guys came from.
To my knowledge, it never really came up. We just figured we had it budgeted right, and then we got a COVID, and then we got a war going on. It just drove things completely out of hand that we didn't anticipate.
No, they had everything. And where does the county sit financially? I mean, for like, you guys have a rainy day fund for any kind of, like, you would have some overruns, which we are having?
We don't like to use that term.
Okay, well, whatever. Is there anything out there in the exact
Just
Mr. Severson?
Yeah, go ahead.
Dave, you've got your general fund balance sheet for exact, coming up that in Dave report, so you can show Dan and you can show Bob where we're sitting financially in what's called the general fund. We always designate a portion of the next year's expenditures as, I don't know, like the word, we call it working capital. So there's just a little over $2 million there. And then if you look down at the bottom line, the 2.7 million is where we are for the undesignated general fund. So if you want to say, you're not going to say what we need.
No, don't say that.
This is our general fund is about 4.7 million.
Paul, what is recommended that we have on hand? Is it, I know the state said something.
This is what county board action has taken, that 2 million is
A
what
certain
we
percentage,
have.
it comes off a certain percentage of your
25%
budget.
of the next year's
Budget.
budgeted expenditures.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
Bear in mind, with the way costs are going up on everything, when we have to make expenditures to keep running the county, everything's going up.
Well,
Notwithstanding, it should also be noted that our revenues are up because of inflation as well, which if the economy turns, which high projections are looking that way, that will turn as well because people won't be spending money at Quick Trip and all the rest of the places. So even though we may see some additional funds coming in now, that could quickly turn around. So we need to bear in mind those economic factors.
We also do not have an accurate account of what it's going to cost us to run the facility once construction is complete. We have excellent estimates, but often our estimates fall short, and we don't know. There's a possibility that it'll cost us more money to run the facility totally than we're aware of. That's just a fact of life.
And these expenses are going to fall under the levy limits.
Yeah.
So we have to work with whatever money that we legally can collect.
You know, Adi brings up good points about planning but I think we do a more than thorough job. If we made plans for every eventuality, we would never get anything done because we'd be too busy making plans. We can't make plans for anything and everything that's going to happen. And I think in this situation, like Kurt said, how are we gonna make plans for COVID and the results from that happening? That, we were all alive when that happened, and I can remember thinking, how is this possible? I mean, I got a real understanding of how serious the situation was when the Tavern League okayed closing the bars in Wisconsin. That gave me an idea of really how serious the whole thing was. And I think on a certain degree, we're fortunate that it wasn't a lot worse than it turned out to be. Our recovery we may never get back to where we were prior to the onset of COVID, but we're making good headway and we're headed in the right direction. But I think we all work together and plan A, plan B, and necessary plan C, but we'll see how that goes.
Dan, could I, we have meetings, both exec finance and property, that should start at 9:30, I think, well, officially for the property. I think we need to move on something right now in terms of recommending, taking a recommendation into the board. How much was the total of that original resolution?
Dick, I don't know the exact number, but I believe it was like 2.36, like one was, I think it was 1.5 and 860,000.
What was the 860 for again?
FF&E, fixtures, furnishings, and equipment.
Okay.
So, I mean, that one that was tabled, I mean, the language is there that we could bring that back to the board on the 18th when you guys meet as a county board. And then, I think the recommendation would be give direction for us to go back and talk to the department heads about looking at the layout and the design of this over the course of the next couple months so that we could target by September bringing you a budget back. Tim just whispered in my ear, we gave direction to the department heads to look at a solution and a layout that was 30 to 50 years down the road. If we wanted to look at a short-term or a shorter-term solution, the scope of that renovation may change. And there's a couple ways we could look at that. And that would be my recommendation, is if you could take action on the resolution that was tabled in April this month, it would then give the funds to property to deal with the costs that are going to come up over the course of the next 3-4 months until we identify what that true the updated budget would be for the renovation with some potential changes, and then have the discussion about the ARPA funds in its entirety. That, I think, could be the best way to go forward. You're not going to spend all 2.3 of them tomorrow. You're just allocating them, and then it comes back to you as a committee to approve them as they come to you. It's not that you're spending that 2.3 right away.
Now, that furnishing money would be for the new building.
Yes, that's furniture, there's some equipment that's in there as well for 911, for some of the IT equipment, some, not IT, but monitors, those sorts of things that are separate and apart from bricks and mortar. So that's how we broke that up into budget. So
I guess I would think it would be good just to go ahead and get that into the board this month, but with one caveat, that the balance of the ARPA funds should remain I shouldn't say invested, should remain untouched and until we uncommitted until we better know the position we stand on funding of the building. So if I will make a motion, and I would assume we'll have to make two motions if we're going to work as two committees. I would make a motion to the property committee that we support the taking of this, or it was tabled, wasn't it? Was it tabled?
Correct.
To take it off the table for discussion at the next meeting with a caveat that we do not commit the balance of the ARPA money at this time. That we hold it in aside at this time.
I'll second that.
Excuse me, can I ask, you're sitting too long without talking, apparently. I'm not sure I understood. It sounded to me like your motion to take it off the table at this meeting Or in a future
No.
meeting? Which way were you talking? That's, I was
No,
confused with that.
at the county board meeting.
On
Take
the
out for the
18th.
county board
On the
meeting. Okay.
18th, yes.
Okay.
Mhm. Did you second that, Dan?
I did.
Just for clarification, Paul, how much is the ARPA funds? What's the total?
5.7 million.
5.7?
Do we have it all?
No, but should be here, the second half should be here, and it won't even turn on.
Yeah, mine didn't either.
Oh, that might be why that,
It's on, the light's on.
now it came on. Should be here any day, because we said 1 year after the first one. The first one was at the end of June, so.
So we're taking how much did you say?
2.3, was that the?
2.36?
That's the one that's, I think we should use that, rather than throw a new resolution before the board, we should just bring this one. I agree.
Now, just take a
Roll vote.
roll call vote.
But that's for the property.
Yep.
And exec.
Oh, you want, that's for exec too?
Both committees.
Would Riley have to introduce or ask for a motion because it's a separate committee?
You're
Yeah,
turned off
joint
again.
meeting.
You're in a joint meeting, so
Okay.
all, well, it's not 10 of you, because there's some duplicates, but
Yeah.
I mean, all 8 of you
Okay.
will be voting on it.
Okay. And I'll call the question then. Dave?
Yes.
Riley?
Yes.
Yes.
Doc?
Yes.
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 Yeah.
Yes, with enthusiasm. That,
Can't make life easy.
all ayes, all yeses, so there can't be any no votes. Motion passes, and we'll work to get this back to the full board on the 18th.
With that caveat, though,
Yep,
that we.
that's part of the motion.
That we guard that,
Can I ask a question? Would it make sense to do a presentation for the full board, and I don't know what your agenda looks like, John, on the 18th? That would go into closed session, have you all see the floor plan of the jail?
It's pretty
And then see
full.
the current floor plan of the
Tech
renovation?
is coming.
Oh, really? We have a pretty dang full
Oh, you do?
agenda.
Yeah.
Um,
I just want to I want to walk through everything with the group, because I feel we still have some new members, and I know some of you were able to see it last month, but I want to bring everybody up to speed so they know what's there.
Whatever you think. If you want me to do it in August, I can do it in August. So,
I'll be starting working on the agenda today
For August?
for
this?
July, so I can let you know.
Well, yeah,
let me know.
we'll see if we can work it in. How long you figure you need?
What do we spend, an hour last property?
Oh, yeah, you're gonna have more questions probably, so.
Yeah. Good budget, more than-
I don't think it has to go, I think 10 or 15 minutes with a chance of discussion would suffice, really.
Super quick, because it's full board.
Okay.
You know, I think
We've
that.
got 8 of the 17 right here, so.
8 of us?
And Kurt, I'm not trying to be critical, but the floor plan you showed at that presentation.
Yes, I'll have an updated one.
Yeah, because that was confusing. You had to spend a lot of time saying, this isn't like that anymore.
Yes. I will get a colored, updated one.
Okay.
And we
And I
have
think
copies for everybody,
just-
so they can have in front of them.
Well, the jail one, because of security, we do that virtually.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, but the other ones will have hard copy, yeah.
Just going back, Kurt, to what we were talking about before, I think if you stay in touch with all the heads of the departments and keep them exactly how it's gonna go, and I think they've got some new heads, and is there a time for, and is there a layout how you're gonna, when you come through the walls and you move these people around, what's gonna happen to their offices?
Yeah, we'll put a phasing plan together.
In that 2-week period or 3-week, because that's gonna be mass confusion for a while.
I'll lean heavily on Tim. Tim was very influential when we were meeting. with the
But you do have a timetable set up for that, okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Would you like to come to that department head meeting on the 20th?
I won't be able to make that.
Okay,
I'm gonna be out of town, but.
okay.
I think, Dan, if there are others you would like to have there present from the property committee, I think, some of us would certainly be there.
Yeah, I think any of the property committee that
9:30, or you're done.
is willing
I can go up there and meet with you guys.
We'll take, the
And go
20th,
over and handle that.
10 o'clock.
10:30, I think it is. 10:30?
10 o'clock, I think.
I got it on my phone, I think.
I'm chair of it this time.
Yeah, but you said
When
you,
you were talking about, you were told to be there, I didn't know. So I haven't done that.
I got an email from Mike Cornman.
10:30 on my
Yep.
calendar.
There's no room for it. There's no room reserved for it. No, it's gonna, no, it's all WebEx. This one is.
Oh.
There's no, that's what our department head meetings are. They're not in a room. You're kidding. Nope.
So you won't need your fans then?
Yeah, as long as I stay seated.
All right,
Yeah.
discussion's over. Property committee, you have another
you're gonna be able to do it then.
meeting,
Yeah,
right?
so-
How do we want to handle that? You would have 3 if the exec stays here. Is that the way we want to do it?
Well, I thought it would be okay if you guys drew straws and one of you came to property.
I don't have any additional information
No,
for you guys. so-
and I was gonna say cut and run,
Okay.
because we're all here, we heard it.
So you would like one of us to go, what's
Yeah.
your favorite, Dave? I'll do the opposite of what you want to do.
I think it's up to the individuals. You guys do what you please.
One go, one stay.
I wanna stay fine.
If you want to stay here, I'll go.
stay here.
You're gonna what?
I'm gonna stay here.
You're staying?
Then pack up and leave.
Yeah. Wow, they treat you well, don't they? Thank you very much,
The
gentlemen.
joint meeting should be adjourned.
Yeah. Okay, I'll adjourn the property committee's involvement in this joint meeting.
I'll second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye, they're gone. Thank you, guys.
Got yeses and nos. Got a bunch of them in the office already.
I guess I might as well be there. Can we just meet at the main office?
No, it's in that letter that you got from me.
Yeah, I'm not sure where that is, though.
It's 131 Cleveland
I
Street.
guess I should go look.
When you
Okay.
get to, when you get to
Isn't that
the
kinda up by the arm?
stoplights,
Yes.
you're coming from
Yes.
your
Isn't that
way,
up by the armory?
turn to the left,
Okay.
and then that very first street, I think is Cleveland, turn to the right.
Oh, it is right there. Okay. Okay.
I was gonna say, just put it in your GPS.
Yes.
Well, that was a good discussion. All right. Item number 8, county sales tax update.
Hang on.
Mr. Severson.
I also just learned that the WebEx automatically turns off, so I mean, that's not very happy with that. Huh?
I'm gonna need that.
You'll have to go talk to them. They said it automatically turns off, and if you're on, you need your PowerPoint.
I need my phone.
Yes, so talk to them about that. Off the record, things aren't working right with this new way of doing the county board packets and the committee. Because I don't even get notice from them anymore of the meetings. I had to have John once send me his notice so that I could send it out to the people that need to be on the WebEx, not doing what it's supposed to. So. and
A
now-
lot of
Now we
bugs.
found out it's turned off. Are they getting it turned back on?
Yeah, he said it'll be a few minutes.
Okay. We can,
Do the budget, or
Do
the,
the budget.
the first one is the sales
Sales
tax,
tax.
right? Yep,
Yep,
okay.
sales tax.
$253,000, $253,942.71. So we are sitting at $795,000 for the year so far, compared to $817,000 last year. But if you look at the year before, $633. So we're right in the
ballpark.
in the kind of ballpark. We're just 20-some thousand behind. So that's
Okay.
where we're sitting on that one.
All right. Any discussions? No? All right, item number 9, general fund update.
That is kind of a little, we have not used any of it for a few months now. April was the last time we did take some money out of there, so we're still sitting at 2.7 million of the Huh?
This would be a good thing.
Yep.
Very much.
Looks like Ann's on.
Any
And
other
that's
discussion?
about it for
Okay,
those two.
cool. Any other discussions on that? No? All right. Department reports and requests. Quarterly department update. County land records. Ann.
That's me.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I'm just gonna share this here.
There it
I'm
is.
gonna do a PowerPoint for everybody, since there's so many new people on this committee. I thought I would introduce us and our department and what we do. One thing I'd like to say is, we are up in land management, way in the back. You can either ring a doorbell to get back to us, or you can badge in with your badge. And we're happy to have people stop up and see what we do at any time. Is that right? No, I'm not in the right. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, it's always fun.
There we go. I gotta see my notes. Can I hide this, Tess? Can I hide that button? Right there?
Yeah,
No, this one. That?
I think that small one, it makes it even, oh, you're going into,
I just wanna get rid of that.
Yeah.
You see what I'm talking about?
yeah. Like that?
There.
Okay.
All right. For those of you who don't know much about Land Records Department, I wanted to explain how land records came to be, and I do want to say there's land records departments in all 72 counties. It's not unusual. In 1989, Wisconsin Acts 31 and 339 established the Wisconsin Land Information Program, authorized county land information plans, and established local and state funding for land records modernization. In June of 1990, Trempealeau County, by resolution, established a land information office. And in 1992, the county board established a land records modernization committee, which is no longer a thing. That's why I'm here in front of exec finance. In 1993, the first plan was adopted by resolution. In 1994, a resolution was adopted so that the first land information coordinator be hired. In 1997, by resolution, the Land Records Modernization Coordinator was established as a full-time position. February of 2001, by resolution, the county board named the Land Records Modernization Coordinator position as the Land Information Officer. In 2011, I became the Land Records Coordinator. I'm going to leave the modernization word out from now on. In 2015, a resolution was drafted merging land records and land management. I then became the supervisor of the real property lister, and shortly after that hired a GIS technician. And that's how we became a 3-person department. In June of 2021, we detached from the Department of Land Management, and that's how we came to be up in the back hall of land management. The Land Information Program, this is an agreement about the Land Information Program within the county. This was from 2005. It highlights that the Land Records Department would work closely with the Register of Deeds and their treasurer to best serve county taxpayers. And this is an overview of the land information program within the county. As you can see, we work with the state in a lot of different ways. A lot of local department or county departments, a lot of municipalities and assessors, and let's see what else. Yeah, I guess DOA is the state, and the DOR and DNR. Another part of the Land Information Program is the Land Information Council. We meet throughout the year to discuss projects, plans, and discuss ways GIS can help them. This is required by the state, and it includes the Land Information Officer, the Register of Deeds, Treasurer, Real Property Lister, member of the County Board, representative of the Land Information Office, Realtor, or member of the Realtors Association, Public Safety or Emergency Communications, County Surveyor or Registered Professional Land Surveyor, and other members of the board or public that the board designates. We just assigned Kellen Nelson to be part of the board, or council. And then I was gonna go over what the department does here. The Land Records Department designs, develops, and manages the county's geographic information system. What is a GIS? I always explain it as a smart map. It's a combination of geographical data and information related to that geographical data. Forgot to hit the buttons. One way to look at it is we have a tax database and we have a map. Those two things talk to each other, and you see a map with all the information from the tax database. And this is our department as it sits right now. I'm the Land Records Coordinator and the Land Information Officer. I've been here at the county for 13 years, the longest running Land Information Coordinator to date. I came with 10 years experience in mostly maintaining counties across the United States, their 911 data. I do want to take this opportunity to say I love working at the county. My favorite part of the job here is assisting county taxpayers. I love talking to them. I love it when they come in the office and ask questions. And I would say the most challenging part of the job is keeping up with technology. I always have to be on my toes and looking to the future. And then as our GIS technician, we have Tess. And I'm gonna let Tess introduce herself.
My name's Tess Saminsky. I've been with Land Records for a little over a year now. Otherwise, previously to that, I worked in land conservation in the Department of Land Management for a little over 5 years.
And then Nick is the GIS specialist, Real Property Lister. He's in Madison today, attending a Department of Revenue meeting because he is part of the State and Local Finance Committee. Nick is also president-elect of the Wisconsin Real Property Association. His term will begin in September. And I'm hoping he can come and introduce himself at our next update, so you can put some faces to our names. And here's kind of what we do here within the county. One of the most important parts of land records is assisting public, local businesses, municipalities, and other departments. We help the public understand their property lines and why the lines got to be the way they are. We also direct them through the proper channels as where to go when there's a dispute. We assess realtors, title companies, and attorneys. We create and maintain data layers for other departments. One example of data layer is we add a point to the GIS for every well constructed in the county, and with that, any well tests that have been conducted. And that in the future, that'll hopefully be used to analyze well water issues within the county. And I'm not going to read everything on that whole list, but I do want Tess to show some of the apps that she maintains because it's kind of fun to look at the end product. If I minimize that, how do I get rid of that?
Just escape.
Okay, now you're gonna have to help me again. One of Tessa's big projects is to maintain a, why is it?
Oh, your screen sharing is paused.
It's to maintain a surveyor's portal. During COVID, the surveyors were having a hard time getting into the county to look up the records they needed to, so, did you get it?
I have it up on my screen, but it's not on.
Do you need to re-WebEx?
Do I have to go back to share screen? Oh, yeah, right here.
Oh.
Okay.
So we made an application online that the surveyors could use from home, and they wouldn't have to come into the county to get the records they needed. I'll let Tess explain what it is, how it gets to be the way it is, and what she does there.
All right, so usually, I'd say about monthly, there's always a variety of different map of surveys that need to be put onto this portal. And this portal is really convenient because the real property lister, he uses it all the time when he's mapping out legal descriptions, but also when surveyors are out doing a survey for a property, you know, previously they'd have to come into the office and reference all the different map of surveys, CSMs, and like also tie sheets. And now this was completely put online. My predecessor actually worked on it during COVID, so that there was a lot more convenience in terms of coming to look at these map of surveys and being able to just do it online rather than stopping at the office, coming in and out, blah, blah, blah. So what I do is every time there's a new map of survey or a CSM, is I put this point on the map of like the location, and then as you can see, I just clicked on that. So I add the map and the legal description, and then also there's a PDF attachment to it. So then the surveyor can pull up this map of survey and reference it for whatever survey they're about to go do out in the field, or if they've already done their survey. So yeah, I update this every couple of weeks really, because there's always CSMs coming in, which is a certified survey map, a new map of surveys, and I get all of this from the county surveyor who works in land management. Anything else you want me to add?
No.
Okay. So then next,
Unless there's questions.
Oh yeah, are there any questions on the surveyor's portal? No. Okay. All right. So I also maintain the community map, which is hidden in the COVID information, because this was also created during COVID. Community resources. So here is the home page of it. I'll open the application, but down here, if for any like local businesses or any community events that are being held, we have information here that they can just submit the information online. We see it, and then we can then update our map. So here's the mapping application. So as you can see, you can zoom in, and there's a whole bunch of resources on anything really. Off to the side, we have, you know, general stores, food, grocery, personal services, government buildings, recreation, and you can click on these points, and it shows data as to when their hours are, and that was really handy during COVID because businesses were constantly changing their hours, or if they were open, if they were closed, if they were available to have the public come in and out, and all of that. So this is also a web application that I maintain on a regular basis for any updates on any businesses or changes of hours or new businesses, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, get back to Ann.
Is that information fed to any outside sources based on freedom of information or anything like that?
If people want to request the data, they can. There's no restriction on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's out there for anybody to look at.
Is it still sharing that?
Oh, I got it. I don't have to do.
Thank you. All right. Almost finished. I promise this will be the longest one I ever do. And here's some of the daily projects we work on, just an overview. Like I said, Nick is the property lister, and he maintains the tax data. We maintain parcel data, addressing, we update 911 and dispatch. We update the master street address guide database, and that's through CenturyTel. We maintain the roads, annexations, zoning, land use, emergency services, snowmobile trails, well points, well tests, and web mapping. Several different applications. Tess showed you just a couple of them. And then we need to meet state requirements, which includes the land information plan, grant applications, grant reporting, statewide parcel data needs to be submitted, and we also address just regular data requests. Redistricting, which we just finished, was fun. We'll do that in 10 more years. I just kind of wanted to give an overview of the remonumentation. When I say we maintain parcels and the remonumentation process that we went through. I need to look at my notes though. Remonumentation started in 1999 and it was completed in 2014. That was our county surveyor finding original corners or evidence of those corners out in the field. He would then bring that information back to land records in an XY coordinate, and then that was incorporated into the GIS as points. Those points were connected to create a section. Those sections were then divided to create quarter sections and then quarter sections. Then the next step was to create the parcels, and that shows where the property lines are. We read each and every one of those deeds and remapped each section, one section at a time. We currently have 3,803 parcels in our GIS, and all this information is available online. It was a huge project to do. We were one of the first of 72 counties to have it completed. There's still counties that are working backwards and from having all the parcels there, but not the foundation of those corner monuments. So with that being said, the state of Wisconsin DOA gives grants to those states or to those counties that don't have this completed. We have it completed, so we can use that grant money to any one of the projects in our land information plan. Here's an overview of the real property lister. He does property transfers. He makes sure that the townships have the assessment data by the time it's for board of review. He maps all the splits, and let's see, I'll let him tell you next time he comes most of what he does. And here he just wanted me to show you some numbers of the documents that he's processed. From January 1 to June 30th, 886 documents. That was in 2021. So you can see in 2022, he's processed 915 documents. Things are a little crazy in the real estate market right now. He divided 66 parcels last year from January 1 to June 30th, and this year he's increased to 87. And then he wanted to have the average yearly docs processed for the last 3 years, 1,619. And the average yearly parcel divisions was 153. The following projects are in our land information plan. Our plan was completed in October of 2021, and it's available online, or if anyone wants to see it, I can email it to you. It's about 80 pages, so I didn't want to print one out for everybody. If you want to request that, you certainly can. I do have the it's within, I think it's on our website, on Land Records webpage, I should say. The Land Information Plan does dictate our future projects and where we can apply that grant money. The 2022 LiDAR flight was one thing that we applied for and we got grant funding for. We got $82,000 in grant money from the state, and then the USGS cost shared $142,690. It was complete in 2022, but it takes a long time to process, so it'll be ready for us in the summer of 2023. We'll have 1-foot contour data. And I should say LiDAR stands for light detection and ranging. It uses remote sensing method that light in the form of a pulsed laser to measured ranges. So this is what we get. Not only will we have 1-foot contour lines through there, we can get a 3D model that shows the elevation of the county. This helps a lot in land management and planning efforts, hazard assessment, flooding, geological, watershed, river surveys. The city of Arcadia used our last LiDAR flight for an analysis on their flooding issues. Another thing is the Wisconsin Regional Ortho Imagery Consortium, WROC. I'll just go to the next slide to show you. In 2017, we had a flight. You can see the 6-inch resolution, and then 2020, we had a flight with 3-inch resolution. You can see the clarity in the newer 3-inch resolutions. So the aerial photos is part of our plan, but it's a 3-year, every 3 years we'll have that aerial flight. Some applications for that is parcel mapping, asset management, environmental monitoring, zoning enforcement, emergency response, code enforcement, floodplain mapping, forest management, and I always like to say that they're really pretty to look at. So it's nice to bring to a committee and show them what they look like. Then the next thing this is another big project we'll be working on is the state of Wisconsin is working towards upgrading our enhanced 911 to next generation 911. This means we have to meet the state of Wisconsin's road centerline and address data standards. We haven't jumped into it yet. Our data was analyzed and we'll be cleaning it up, and so it'll fit with the state standards. And then the other thing I applied for grant money for was getting our web mapping application up to speed with technology. We just started that, and I'm not sure when it'll be complete. And then, just wanted to thank everyone for their time. It was nice to meet everybody now, and if anyone has any questions, happy to answer any.
The data for all of your systems and applications, where is it housed, and what infrastructure might be needed in the future to incorporate additional data?
Right, so it's on a server, and it's in a geodatabase, so it's a database for geographic information.
Within the county?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Is it backed up then in a normal backup process?
Yes, it's backed up regularly. Thank goodness.
That'd be good.
Yeah, yeah, it's backed up. And there, with technology, I don't know, it could be in the cloud someday. You just don't know how it's all gonna go. We use one software product, Esri software, ESRI. That's how we maintain it, and they kind of dictate how we do things, because it's really the only company that has this software.
And do we
so.
feed the state any data? Or
Yes.
required to feed the state data?
We are required to feed the state boundary data. Boundary data, January and July, in case there's annexations. And they take that boundary data and then they change the district that annexation, it would switch from one supervisory district to another. And then they submit that to the feds. And then in March, we have to analyze our parcel data and make it fit with the states. So we give them parcel ownership, assessment values, the zoning, land use, addresses, and I think that's about it. That's what they required.
Just one quick question, this is selfish on my part. One of my street signs says the street name is named this, and the other one is spelled this way.
Yes.
How do you determine which is right, and how do you tell the citizens, hey, by the way, your address that you've been reporting is wrong?
Do you live in the township or city?
Township.
Township. So the town, we don't do anything with town road names or town road signs. The township is
Responsible to make sure
responsible
they
for
spell
that.
it right?
But if it's not correct out in the field and it's not correct in our GIS, and I get a new address on that road, if we could have 3 different things going on. And so then I would reach out to the residents who live on that road and have them change their address. People don't like to change their address. I've gotten threatened to be sued because I changed their address for 911 reasons. They lived on a dead-end road off a main road. They were still addressed off that main road. So even though the address sign could be out there, that doesn't really bring emergency services right to them. It would bring them out to that main road, so.
That's why I asked the question earlier on, how does this information get fed to other independent agencies or companies? Because IMAP says one thing and Google says another.
Yes.
And it's like,
If people request me to submit a change to Google, I can do that.
okay, all right.
Google sometimes will not accept my changes, even though I'm the one who actually creates that data.
How dare they?
Yeah, there's a lot of people who couldn't get FedEx to come to their house. I don't know where they're getting that data. They never request it from me. It'd be a lot easier if they did request it from me.
I did submit a few corrections to Google, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago or so, and they accepted most of them, because there was a big issue on like 35, 93, 54 down in the southern part of the county. And yeah, they couldn't get deliveries from FedEx or UPS or get taken to one place. So I did submit a bunch of changes to Google, and they did accept them. And it was like a fairly decent turnaround time. So if that is an issue, we can at least reach out to Google and say, hey, this isn't correct. Can you update it?
The other thing is, what is that hunting app? Onyx. People are using this Onyx app that shows property lines, and I'm not sure where those property lines are coming from, which makes me nervous that they're using it for hunting, and they could be trespassing, because they're using an app that I don't know.
It's not updated or something. Yeah. They might be getting it from the feds, and if they're not updated, then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there any other questions?
Just one oddball one, I guess. When you were going through your LiDAR flight and the cost, you mentioned that 80,000+ was a grant.
Grant.
The rest of that, is that levy money, or do you get other sources of funding?
No, the grant covered the whole thing. So the USGS gave us a grant for $100 and some thousand, and then the rest of that was all grant.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I think we have paid out of county budget.
We did, but the Land Records Department paid it back.
Okay.
Yeah, we went through that fight, so it was much easier just to have all grant money this time.
Okay.
Any other questions?
None?
Good job.
Well, thank you very much,
Yep.
ladies.
Yes, thank you guys.
And we'll see you at budget time, right?
Yeah.
That's really nice.
Which is not that far away, by the
No.
way.
There's only a couple more items down the list.
Yeah. All right. Item B on 10, quarterly update from the county clerk, Mr. Severson.
Well, mine's gonna be much shorter than yours. The office is running very smoothly. Good attitude in the office. Everything's good that way. I did want to bring up that we have an election coming up August 9th, which is a primary, and we did have a ballot situation. We did not have a paper shortage, which is the first thing you think of that there's going to be a problem. They had a labor shortage of the company couldn't get enough labor to print the ballots. So, but we got a workaround. We were PDF'd the ballot, so we had every municipal clerk in the county got PDF copies of the ballot so that they could send out the absentee ballots, because the state sets a date that I have to have the delivered ballots to the clerks so that they can get them sent to the absentees. And so that went fine. We did that. The actual ballots didn't come in until last Friday. And so now we have them, and today and tomorrow, I'm going to be getting those ballots out to all the clerks, so everybody should be happy. That was the main thing I wanted to mention to you, if you heard anything bad from election deals, but it wasn't the paper, it was the labor. They were even working on weekends to try and get our ballots printed. Like I said, we finally got them on Friday, and I'll be getting them out to all the clerks this afternoon and tomorrow.
Question, Paul?
Sure.
A little off subject. I just saw the state Supreme Court ruled in regard to ballots and absentee ballots. The only way for an absentee ballot is by mail. Does that mean if my
The
wife
clerk
wants an
has to
absentee
mail them
ballot,
out. Yep.
she can't deliver it to the clerk?
Back to the clerk?
Right, hand deliver it? Does
They
that-
can hand deliver them back.
Back, okay.
But
that's
they have
okay.
to be mailed out.
Okay,
And they
okay.
just got rid of the drop boxes.
I know the
There's no-
Dropbox.
Yeah, the
that was-
Dropbox, if there are any Dropbox to be used, they have to actually be in the clerk's office.
Yep.
And so, there's
The
none of
Dropbox
those.
we got outside won't count?
That's
They
not,
don't bring
that's
those
not a
anyway.
Dropbox for elections, no. Oh, that'd be a problem, because we don't get them back at the county. They go back to each municipality, and if we got any in there, I go like this. So nobody better drop them in there. The only other thing, because Dave brought up about, or one of you brought up about the, one of the Daves, brought up about backups and all that, and my office is the finance department also for the county, and our records are backed up multiple times a day, actually. So
That's good.
I just wanted to mention that when you're talking about backups. So we are, like I said, going well. I don't have any other issues going on right now, so
All right.
that's it for me.
Any other questions? None? Okay. Item C of number 10, create a non-lapsing fund for the veterans. Mr. Young?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'll make it short. Good morning, I'm Steve Young. I think I've met everybody. I don't know if we've met yet, sir, but nice to meet you.
You were at the last meeting.
Okay, great.
So was I think.
Like, too many meetings these days.
Very much.
Just for a little backstory for the newer members, we have a Veteran Service Commission that consists of 3 veterans in the county who get together. Right now, it's once a quarter. It may end up being once a month. We'll see. We're trying to be a little more active because the word's not really out there that it's available. The funds in this account are used for veterans or their families who have a need. They have to supply an application. They have to tell us their income, their expenses, what the money will be used for. If it goes to pay a bill, whether that be medical or utility or whatever, we pay it directly to the company, not to the individual. Every year, it's in my budget, we just up it as we need to with cost of living, get it approved through exec finance. So what this would do is, currently we get asked a few times a year if people can make donations, like the American Legions, the 40 and 8s, the different organizations, and we don't really have a way to specifically use it for a certain thing. Like I have a check I was talking to him this morning about on my desk, it says for child welfare. I got it last year in June, and I just haven't had a child welfare issue come up yet. And if I deposit that into the account at the end of the year, it would roll back into the general fund, which wasn't the intent of the donation. So what this would do is allow us to build our funds in that account a little higher for things like COVID, tornadoes, bad weather, whatever the case may be, flooding, and then allow us to take those donations. So we would just continue to receive our annual replenishment from the county, and then we would just, it wouldn't go back into the general fund, essentially.
Does there have to be a resolution to that fact?
Yes.
You should have one in your packet.
There is a resolution.
So Steve, just to confirm, what would happen then is anytime someone would designate funds to your office, that would stay in your office.
In that line item.
And it would continue to grow if you didn't disperse it, rather than going back to the general fund at the end of the fiscal year.
Correct. Yeah, like when those real bad storms went through last year, we had a few vets that lost their roofs or barns, different, their livelihoods were at stake, but we couldn't really help them a whole lot. We got them contacted with all the different agencies out there, but we couldn't really give a lot of funds out because we just don't have it,
But kind of a flip side question is, if the fortunate circumstance came where you started getting a lot of funds donated and you had an excess surplus, what is defined as an excess surplus if you had, for example, $1 million in there? Well, at some point, we need to get the money to people who need it, but maybe there would be a need for extra efforts to let people know that there's funds available or something along those lines. Have you thought about that at all?
Absolutely, yeah. The Veteran Service Commission hasn't been very active, honestly, over the last 5, 10, however many years. Since I've been in the office for the last 3, I've tried to get meetings together, then COVID hit, so we haven't had a lot of luck with that. So I've been doing phone call meetings individually with each of the members. I want to get it to be a monthly commitment from each of these guys or gals, whoever ends up being elected. They're on 3-year terms that rolls every year. And I've been personally trying to push more when I get veterans who come to the office asking for help. If it's $100 or less, the policy is I can authorize it on the spot, like if it's for gas or food or if it's an emergency. If it's over that, they have to submit the application to the Service Commission. So I've been trying to get the word out there more that we have these funds available. And if we ever ended up with a large excess in funds, then we could discuss perhaps as a group or what we want to do with it. Talk to the VSOs, talk to whoever around and see what we can do best with it. We would have to discuss what we think is an excess and go through all those logistics, but.
That's kind of where my mind was going, is something we should maybe think about. We could add that as a resolution later, if there's a percentage above your normal budget or something.
Absolutely.
It could be a consideration to disperse in a different way, still to help veterans. But.
And it's fairly low at the moment. I think $3,000 a year or $3,500 is what we get.
Mr. Severson.
I was just going to say, yeah, we levy $3,500 for veterans relief each year. And I was going to say that if his fund started getting too big, we would just lower our levy.
We could also go that route, yeah.
Yeah, and it's good what we're doing, and I think this is a great resolution myself. I just want the other side of it is we need to make sure we're
Absolutely.
doing right for
Yeah, we don't
sitting there not going to where they need to go.
Agreed. Agreed.
Okay.
I'd move for the approval of this resolution.
Is that a motion?
Yeah.
I got a motion on the table.
I'll second.
To approve the resolution by Mr. Ozen and seconded by Mr. Larson.
You can keep that one.
This would be
Roll call.
roll call vote. Mr. Ozen?
Yes.
Mr. Orsh?
Yes.
Mr. Larson?
Yes.
And a yes from Mr. Foltz is the chair. 5
May I have you
yeas,
sign this one?
5
So I have it
yeas.
ready for county board?
No nays. Resolution passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming in and
No problem. Thanks for having me.
oh, great. What now?
I think we did 11 pretty much already. What'd you say?
I lost my agenda. I didn't have paper one today.
The ARPA stuff was next.
Yeah, I think ARPA was next.
Somebody else got some other ideas with it.
Still haven't heard from him yet, huh? Should-
I asked Lori, what day was that? You asked me about it last week.
Probably Wednesday.
Wednesday. We hadn't gotten it yet.
Yeah.
The townships have, so.
Yeah, it should, maybe it's there today.
All right. Item number 11, discussion and actions of ARPA funds.
Well, that's what we were just talking about.
We just, basically, we're just waiting for the second half.
Waiting for the second
payment.
half.
Second half payment.
Yep.
And earlier, we discussed what we're gonna
Delegate
delegate.
some of the money for.
funds.
Yep.
So I think we're pretty well covered that. ARPA.
The only thing that we have designated or allocated so far is the veterans.
That was like
It was like,
We
Like $6,000.
we allocated 6,000, but their bill came in less, so that probably will be changed in the next report to the feds, saying what it actually spent.
Yep.
We wouldn't have to have the rest of that, so that money will go back to the,
Okay.
to the general.
no,
ARPA
just
to
back
the
to the.
general ARPA fund.
Yes, yep.
All right, FEMA funds update.
I have not heard anything new. We're still waiting for the money.
Okay.
That's all I can say. Feds are very slow.
No. All right, item number 13, 2023 budget discussion.
Okay, I'm ready to send out the paperwork to the department so that they can start working on their budgets. You've got to tell me what your anticipation is for. Usually, you want a 0% increase because our levy limit is not even usually 2% increase, and that's only a couple $100,000. And it's going to be interesting this year. I don't want to say I'm scared.
Okay, I'm just gonna put it on the table. I mean, 0% increase, okay? We're in a situation where we're way overspent. We should consider requesting a decrease in the plan. I know that's tough, but you can always go up throughout the process. And if we take 1% decrease in expenditures, what can you cut?
And I have already gotten the new rates for the retirement, and that's increasing. It's 0.3%. It's going from a 6.5% to a 6.8%. So that's set by the state. So we already know there's going to be an increase there. We have not heard anything on health insurance. We have found out that one of the plans that a number of the employees have, me included, is being dropped. That company is not going to offer health insurance anymore. So people will be looking for new plans. I know HR is doing that right now, trying to figure out where health insurance is going to be at. And we usually don't get that rate increase until September. We don't get the net new construction and levy limit worksheets until August 15th is the date that the state has to send that out to us. And I have no indication on, I mean, there's a lot of building going on out there, but I don't know what our net new construction is. Because that's what we can raise our limit. Our levy limit is whatever net new construction goes up. So, I can say 0 or decrease.
With the new building being built and we are very tight on money, I would consider making sure we're under, decrease their budget just a smidge to be able to afford the new building that they all want to move into.
We are going to be handed that building over within the 2023 plan year, right? So those expenses we heard, there was gonna be $100,000 for just heating and cooling, another $100,000 for cleaning, toilet paper, paper towels, you name it, those kinds of things, so.
And it just sets us up for what it's gonna be for when we do get the building, of just being able to cover some of the costs. Because it could be just a smidge over, it could be under, just to see where our budget is, just for the new building.
And I think there's at least 2 new employees going in over there that they're gonna be hiring to start training. So that right there is an
That
increase.
was on the maintenance, right?
No, Sheriff's Department.
Oh, sure.
For the jailers?
Huh? They're already hired, aren't they?
Yeah,
And going
they're
through their training?
I
But
think
they got money,
His was net level, though, when it was all said and done.
okay, I hope it stays that way.
Yeah, if I recall that. We can
But
confirm that.
they're still like, one's a jailer, maybe they both are jailers, I'm not sure, but they go back and forth. They're still working here, but they go back and forth on it.
Okay.
1% reduction is what I would propose.
1%.
Because if we got a 3%.
And this is levy, because I always tell them, because their budget might go up, well, maybe their revenues will go up, so they could still have a negative 1% levy. Okay.
Yeah.
I want
I think that's a great
Some
idea.
don't-
First time since I've been in exec finance in the last 10 years that I know that it's happened, so.
It's
I
tough,
think
it's really tough.
I know it's good.
They gotta sharpen, this is the time to sharpen our pencils, because.
Very
if you-
seldom you ever even get it zero, so this is it's just a warning shot, I think, so it's good.
Yeah, this is just basically saying, hey, can you guys help us out with everything increasing in prices, the demand, the workforce isn't there, the cost is going up so much. This would just help the county all in all, to be able to give us some flexibility for the new building, or what we're gonna do in this building, and everything out there for the taxpayers as well. So I would agree
got
with
it.
Mr. Orsh on that.
Did you want that as a motion, probably?
Yeah, I motion for a 1% reduction in levy budget for 2023.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Larson. Is that one gonna be a row? Okay.
Oh, you can if you want, but I mean.
No, we'll do it. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? None. Motion carried. All right. No further discussion on that. We'll move to item 14. Set the date and time for the next regular meeting. I'll pull my calendar
Already
out.
August 1st? It's the first Monday.
Oh, I got to September, wrong month. Yeah, August 1st. 8:30 still work for everyone?
So that's only 3 weeks from now, is that?
This one's later because of the holiday.
Yeah.
You would have been
We had the
last week.
4th.
Yeah.
And that, yeah, August 1st.
August 1st. 8:30 works still for everyone?
Yeah,
I mean,
8:30 is fine.
Got a consensus of 8:30, so we'll set the date at August 1st at 8:30 in the morning. So, all right, so we have that set. We'll go to item 15, adjournment.
And you can just do that.
Yep. Motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Oh, just,
no.
this is just an adjournment. The meeting is done
He's doing it.
at,
He's declaring it.
I'm declaring at 10:18.